Hey, this is Vu, and I've made my opinion on smoke videos pretty clear in the past. I think people use them far too often, but there is a limited set of utility that I think just about everybody should know, and I figured I'd go through that on every single map. This isn't going to be every piece of utility you could know, but it's every piece of utility you really need if you want to play at a decent level, and you won't have to go anywhere else to learn crazy, obscure smokes if you want to get to a high pug level. To begin with, there's a couple of ways to smoke Xbox here on Dust 2. You should know at least one of them. Up from this little shadow here in line with this roof is going to be one way to smoke it from T-spawn. You can also smoke it by coming over here with your settings on high so you can actually see these antennas. You can aim at the top of this antenna here. Those are the two easiest ways to smoke Xbox, and that's really the main smoke you need to be knowing on this map. The other smokes that are pretty good to know, if you want to smoke long corner, you can come here, aim up from the middle of this door until the roof on 64 tick. On 128 tick, you aim up till here and toss a jump throw. That's going to smoke off long corner. Not 100% necessary, but certainly something you can know. The other smoke on this map that is 100% necessary is a mid to B smoke. So you can aim down from here. You can also throw a flash with that as well as if you want. And another convenient piece of utility is to come right about here, aim a molly just like that, and that's going to molly out the right side of doors. Everything else is not 100% necessary, or it can be thrown on the fly. Mirage is a map where you probably want to know more smokes than almost any other. To begin with, you have a top mid smoke on top of this garbage can up there. You also have the window smoke, which you don't necessarily need to know, but it's definitely convenient. On 64 tick, you can come to this corner here, aim right about here, and then crouch walk until your crosshair gets to this level, then jump throw. Or on 128 tick, you can come here, aim right about here, hold D, and jump throw. It's obviously not going to land on 64 tick, but on 128, that'll fly directly into window. On the A side, you should definitely know the jungle smoke. You can come here, aim up from this little dot here until just about the middle of this area here. You also want to know a CT smoke, which is typically thrown from this position. You can also throw a flash from here as well, and you want to know a stairs smoke, which you can throw from back here by aiming in this area. You can also throw a window smoke from top middle. There's a ton of ways to throw it, but just so you don't mess it up, you can aim just about in the middle of this lamppost or whatever it's called, and run throw to get it in there, or you can molly connector as well like that. Those are really the only pieces of utility you definitely need to know on Mirage. On Inferno, there's a few things you want to know how to throw, mostly on the banana side. Obviously, you can just wing a car molly, but if you want to smoke coffins, you can come here, aim at this bulb here, up until this level, and that's going to be a coffin smoke. You can also know a CT smoke from a bit closer, like this, and you can know a new box molly by coming into the Nuke here in car and jump throwing like that, and that's going to molly new box. You've got a CT smoke and a coffin smoke, and the CT smoke, if you get it perfectly correct, it shouldn't really even have that gap there either. On the A side, you can know an arch side smoke. I usually throw it like this. There's a lot of different ways to throw it. It's not too precise. You can get it from a lot of different positions, but that's the way I like to throw it. And if you want to smoke moto as well, it's decent to know this one like this. There's also a few flashes that are useful to know, but you don't necessarily need either. You can throw a god flash from anywhere around here. You aim just about like here and throw a jump throw. You can also throw this directly off of the coffin smoke as well in just the same way, and that's going to blind pretty much all of the site as well as a lot of people peeking from CT. And a similar thing on the mid side is you can aim right about here and jump throw, and that's going to blind most of middle as well over this ledge. Or you can do something fairly similar by just taking a step forward and throwing like that. It's going to blind most of middle as well. On train, there's a ton of stuff you could know, but only a few things you need to know. And first off, you can throw a Z smoke from here by aiming right there and jump throwing. You can throw a left side E-box smoke, which used to be something you almost never saw, but is now very standard, like that. And you can throw a sandwich smoke right here. There's a ton of leeway on this one, and you can throw it on the fly. The sandwich smoke you should probably be having just about every round to block off this area and make your opponents a little bit uncomfortable. The other thing you can definitely know is a back 6 smoke. So you can come here. There's a lot of ways to line this up, but I can actually line it up like this, where you're lining up this part of the vent to the window and then aiming just down from here to the brick, and that's going to smoke off back 6 train or back 6 lane, and that's going to smoke off Ivy, and it's going to leave a gap for you to peek out from hell if you want. As well, you can know the standard Ivy utility. So if you've come Ivy and you've got to the left side, you can throw a smoke towards left side Ivy like this, and then you can throw a molly off of that pretty easily like that, and off of that you can either push up or you can fall back, and your opponents don't have much information as to what you're doing because of that utility. The other thing that's decent to know is a flash to clear lower ramp. I throw it by coming right about here, aiming at the top of the sign, and that's going to be a generally good flash. If you want to line it up perfect, you can find the exact lineup, but generally it doesn't need to be too crisp if you don't need it to. The main thing you actually want to know on train to hold outer rushes on CT side as a train tip is you want your first person coming out Z to toss a flash, and you want your second person coming out Z to toss a molly, and that way any oppers going for peaks are going to be blinded, and any riflers going for a rush are going to have to come through a molly. In fact, you can have that molly land a lot deeper if you really want. On Overpass, there's a ton of utility you could know and definitely would be convenient to know, but not too much that you need to know. The first one that you probably want to know would be a bathroom smoke, a front bathroom smoke. You can throw it from here. On 64 tick, you're going to want to aim it a little bit lower. On 128 tick, you aim a little bit higher, but you can see the shadows here, and that's going to be a jump throw. You can also throw a similar smoke, except instead of throwing it from T-spawn, you can throw it from playground like this. This is one of the more common ways of throwing it, just about here. You can also throw a jump up smoke from in the front of this bench. You just take a quick step back as you jump up. You can aim out to the right of this lamp, and that should be just about right. If you're in a tight spot, you can also wing one from long. I'm sure there are some lineups, but if you're in a total rush, this is the only reason I'd be throwing this one. You aim up from this tree and take a few steps forward and throw. As well, you can molly that if you have no smoke by aiming at the same spot, just running further. And you can molly truck from here as well by aiming over to the right there and taking a few steps forward and throwing as well. Just need to learn exactly how far you want to be running to get that one to land correctly. As well, you certainly could know a molly towards divider from right about here. You aim here, and just to the right of this tree, take a step forward and toss that throw, and that's going to land divider, push anybody out. Just make sure you don't throw it a little bit too far like I did there, because it's not going to be quite as good as you may want it. Otherwise, the most important utility to know is really a B molly, and there's plenty of different ways to throw it, but the most easy way to throw it is to come to this angle here. There's a ton of leniency on this one. 128 tick, you aim at the bottom of the B, 64 tick, you aim just about the middle of it and toss a jump throw, and that's going to molly off short fairly quickly. The other mollies you should probably know for the CT side, the molly for short right about here, ton of leniency on that one. As you get to these doors, toss a smoke at the second story there, or you can throw that as a smoke as well instead of a molly. The other convenient nade to know on Overpass is a Molotov. You can run through it by coming along this route here, aiming just right there, and then you're going to jump throw that as you begin to pass this bench, so it should look a little bit like this. And that should land towards T-stairs for you to get a little bit of control if you're on that CT side. On Nuke, there's actually quite a few smokes you can throw as executes. However, when you're playing in a pug, the ones you really need to know are the outer cross smokes and the outer lurk smoke. So the outer cross smoke can be thrown from outer. They can also be thrown from closer to T-spawn, but the ones you really want to know are from outer. You can throw one of them, the first one, like this, and you can throw the second one by coming to this box here, line up like so, and then aim right here. And that's going to be both cross smokes thrown, shouldn't really be any gaps here, and you can get across pretty safely. The lurk smoke is one that's definitely very important to know if you're solo queuing. You aim up from this first thing here, and you just toss a run throw, and you can use this to jump up on top of the box and kind of play it as a one-way. One other smoke that's useful to know is if you come along this back wall, you get to right about here, you line up this wall like this, and then you aim right here. That will smoke off Garage. That can be used in tandem with the smoke towards Mini. However, again, when you're looking at pugs, it's probably not something you're going to be throwing very often. Something you might want to know that's probably going to be more important to you is a molly like this, or something along those lines that will push people off of the back stairs and put them in much more uncomfortable situations. Another smoke you can know, but you can throw this one more intuitively, is a smoke like that. When it comes to Vertigo, it is a bit complex because a lot of the smokes you want to throw really only work in tandem with others, kind of like Nuke. However, a couple that are pretty important to know include this one. You can come into this corner here and to throw a jump throw smoke right about there. That's going to smoke towards Ivy or, lane, whatever you want to call it. As well, on the CT side, you can know this smoke. You come to this T cross thing here. You aim just up from the light. You're going to throw a run throw. And you can know a couple of smokes as A execute smokes if your teammates have any level of support. One throws the left side of A site smoke like that, and the second you can come over here and throw a smoke like so. It's going to smoke off for the right side of A site, and that's going to work pretty effectively. And this one, you can even have a teammate kind of wing it like that, and it'll land generally okay to try and block off most of the bomb site. On the mid side, you can know a smoke from here that smokes off window. Of course, it's not perfect. You're throwing it from inside of middle. However, that will get window for you. And if you have no choice and you only have one smoke, over on the B side here, you can line up like this and throw a smoke that will block off the B side cross fairly effectively like that, and that's going to allow you to get into the site a little bit more easily, and certainly it'll deal with some players that want to be holding angles that they're not very comfortable holding when they're smoked off. But anyways, that's really all I've got. These are the smokes that I think are completely necessary for you to know at general pug levels. Of course, if you get into high levels of pugs, you're in something like rank A+, you want to make the next step, you can learn more, you can add some things on, but if you're trying to improve, I don't think you really need all that much more than this at lower levels that you can't be just winging randomly and figuring out on the fly. Stuff like winged flashes, smokes for the cross on Dust 2, all those sorts of things you don't really need lineups for necessarily.